Welcome to the Fictionary Podcast, the show that helps you turn your words into bestsellers. I'm Shane Miller, Fictionary's Community and Customer Success Manager, and I'm here to help you structure stories readers can't resist. Enjoy the show. Hello, Fictionarians! Welcome to episode 7 of the Fictionary Podcast. This week's episode is all about how to be objective as an editor. But before we get into that, I've got a quick update about what's happening at Fictionary this week. As always, it's exciting times at Fictionary HQ. We've just come off the back of hosting the Fictionary Loves Writers 2023 conference, and we all had a fantastic time. Team Fictionary was buzzing. My update this week is basically one big thank you to all of our fantastic guest speakers and to everyone who attended the conference. Not only that, but we finished up with the winners announcement for the Fictionary Book of the Year Award 2022 in the young adult and adult fiction categories. So shout out to Adrienne Deeb, the YA winner with her novel The Untouchable Gift, and my second shout out goes to Lorraine Ferguson, the adult winner with her novel The Fever Box. Myself and the other judges loved reading all the entries and all the work, but I bet you two in particular can't wait for your novels to be sent off to Writers House Literary Agency. A huge well done to our shortlisters too, who are getting a 25-page read through with Writers House, and of course to all the entrants for having the courage to enter the competition. As a writer myself, I know how daunting that can be, so I just want to say well done to everyone who took the plunge. Right, that's it for the update this week. Next, we're going to have one of our Voices of the Fictionary Community quotes. This week's Voices of the Fictionary Community quote comes from Daria White. And Daria says, "I use Storyteller to edit and I saw a difference. My story was much stronger and more compelling." Thanks, Daria, not only for the testimonial, but also for being an integral part of the Fictionary community. Right, let's talk about how to be objective as an editor. An objective edit, free of the whims and fancies of personal opinion, is the gold standard of editing for which all editors strive, isn't it? To understand why being objective as an editor is important, let's examine how subjectivity harms an edit. So why should editors fight their subjective reactions? This is a reasonable question. Books are written for readers who, as anyone who spent any length of time searching through goodreads.com, no, just me, okay, demonstrates, readers generally react to books subjectively. We might then think, other readers will surely share my views. Novels are an art form, they're a matter of taste, we can't ever appeal equally to everyone. But as an editor, if I help a writer create something that I love, then other readers might react similarly. This is a seductive argument. Unfortunately, giving free rein to our own opinions without being an objective editor is a risky way to edit stories. Why so? Writers often struggle to interpret subjective feedback. For example, take editorial advice which just says, try making your protagonist more likable. What does the writer need to do with this? Like, what are they going to do with it? The writer either found their protagonist likable and therefore now feels confused, or didn't intend for their protagonist to be likable and now suspects the editor misunderstood their story. And there's another possibility too. The writer was seeking actionable editorial advice on how to make the greatest number of people react positively to their protagonist. And this comment doesn't really help because the editor isn't being objective enough. Stating our subjective opinions is really, really easy. If you want to know what's tougher, it's taking a step back and examining those opinions objectively, just as we should examine the manuscripts in front of us objectively. So what does being an objective editor actually mean? The key when giving objective advice isn't to ignore our reader reaction entirely, or what we think the reader's reaction might be, but to analyze what specifically about the story might make a reader formulate a certain reaction. In the above example, the important point isn't that the editor didn't like the protagonist. The important point is why. And that's what the writer needs to know when you're giving feedback. Was it perhaps because the editor found the protagonist passive? If so, there's potentially an objective solution. Perhaps the protagonist lacked a clear story goal or clear scene goals and failed to strive for these goals. And once we know what the why is behind the advice that we're giving, we can then give actionable tips to help the writer improve on these specific things. The editor could instead say, when a character pursues clearly defined goals, this allows the reader to root for the character and connect with them, even if the reader disagrees with these goals. In scenes X, Y, and Z, I've marked where your protagonists failed to pursue their goal proactively. Take a look at these scene notes. Consider whether you can restructure these scenes around your protagonist's proactive pursuit of a plot-related scene goal. This, as you can see, is much more actionable. But what if the editor's dislike of the protagonist was founded on something subjective at its core, such as the opinions and actions of a character, which an editor might find objectionable? If your client was seeking to write, for example, a thoroughly unpleasant crime boss whom the reader feels uncomfortably connected with, then advising them to make the character more likable may be counterproductive to their aims. Providing specific advice on creating reader connection through goals, backstory, and internal dialogue, however, may be more constructive. So you can ask your client directly about their intentions, and this demonstrates your respect for their artistic vision. If you discover that your client's intentions are objectionable to you, you're probably the wrong editor for them. And there's nothing wrong with that, to say, this book isn't the right fit for me. I don't think I'll be able to do the edit justice, but I know XYZ editor who can. Better to discover this early on and kind of end your relationship amicably. So books with villains as protagonists, because that does happen, aren't for everyone, but there will be editors out there who can objectively edit them. And another good thing is that objectivity allows you as an editor to assess a book for what it seeks to be, rather than you as an individual wish it could be. And part of that is creating trust between you and the author, or you and your client. So we should be giving feedback that motivates the writer, pointing out things that they do really well, and pointing out places in a manuscript that need improvement. And what we should allow for is for the author's voice to shine through and not stifle their voice with our editorial comments. And also your editor's voice should shine through in your feedback. So if your natural inclination is to be kind, which obviously here at Fictionary, that is our natural inclination, then let that shine through in your edit. And whatever you do, please don't tear a writer down and kind of make it personal to the writer. Our aim is not to scare writers away from writing. It's actually to support them, to help them grow and improve as an author. But come on, Shane, I hear you ask, do objectively great stories even exist? We all have different tastes, but some books seem to transcend personal opinion. So at the time of recording, on Goodreads.com, Pride and Prejudice has close to 4 million reviews, averaging 4.3 stars. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is nudging 9 million at 4.3 stars. By analysing stories against objective story elements, elements existing in almost all of the time-honoured and successful stories, from Charles Dickens to Dan Brown to Suzanne Collins, all of these fantastic authors, we give our writers the best chance of finding this story magic and using it to create their own artistic vision. These elements provide a structural framework within which an editor can objectively assess what is and what isn't working in a story. So I've written some articles on the Fictionary blog around this topic, but really we're looking at the elements of character, plot, and setting. So broadly speaking, are your characters pursuing a goal? Is there a stake if they fail? So a consequence to their failure. It doesn't mean that they have to fail in their goal, but if they do, is there a consequence to that? That's just an example from the character elements. If we look at the plot elements in Fictionary, is your story arc solid? Do you have the inciting incident, plot point 1, midpoint, plot point 2, climax and resolution? Are you going to tell a satisfying story in a way that readers expect it to be told? Are your entry hooks great? Are you hooking readers in? Are your exit hooks fantastic? Are you pulling them through to the next scene? If there are flashbacks, are they executed well? If you're including backstory, is it done in a way that isn't an info dump? So you've got all these plot elements, and then setting. Are you using enough sensory detail? So can the reader clearly imagine what your point of view character sees, hears, smells, tastes, and touches based on what you've told them in the narrative? So all of these elements as editors can stop us from being subjective and help us to be objective. So I firmly believe, and I know everyone at Fictionary does too, that objectivity is the magic dust of editing. And this can really help us as editors work with our clients to design stories that really shine. Once again, it's time for my favorite part of the show. That's right, folks, it's question of the week. And this week's question for you to answer is, what do you like most about writing dialogue? I can't wait to read your answers. You can either drop a comment on the YouTube video or join the Fictionary community for free right now. Answer there and join in the discussion with a bunch of awesome writers and editors. The link to join the Fictionary community, as always, is in the show notes. Are you enjoying the Fictionary podcast? If so, then we would love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel or subscribe on your favorite podcatcher, like our videos, comment, get involved in the discussion. And don't forget, you can join the Fictionary community for free if you want to take advantage of being involved in a group of active writers and editors who all support each other to write better stories and help each other turn their words into bestsellers. The link to join the community is down in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Fictionary podcast. If you enjoyed the show, hit subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcatcher. And don't forget to head over to the YouTube channel or join the Fictionary community for free today and answer the question of the week. Happy writing and editing, and we'll chat again next time.